I am Barbara Turman Ferguson. I was born in Asheville, North Carolina. There was one high school for African Americans, Stevensley High School, and when I was about 15, 16, we as young people desegregated Asheville because we didn't have a college in Asheville. So the organization was ASCO, Asheville Student Committee on Racial Equality, and we were mentored by some adults in the city and made appointments, talked to people at department stores and Woolworths and got them to agree to desegregate their facilities. In about 1979, my oldest child, Jay, wanted to be a part of a play at Children's Theater, and he auditioned and didn't get a part, and said, "Ma, I think I was basically as good as the other children, but for reasons that we understood at the time, he would not get that part." So I looked around in the community. I knew a woman in Charlotte, a young woman, Karen Jones Meadows. She was aware of a grassroots grant, and after I kind of looked around for a year or so, she suggested that I apply for a grant at Arts and Science Council. She helped to get that grant, and it was I always say it was a huge grant of $300. And we embarked upon that venture, and being the conduit and the fiscal agent. Karen did the reports. After the grant was finished, we started in the summer of 1981 with a drama camp on Johnson C. Smith's campus, and we were there for several years, probably 8-9 years, and then we were at some other sites. Will Smith being very supportive, having facilities there for the classes, and we did performances all over the city. We hired 5 artists. We started in, I think, about June of 1981 with the Afro-American Children's Theater. And even now, the organization we have now is Tomorrow's Road, which is Tomorrow's Roots of the African Diaspora. And it's a legacy of the Afro-American Children's Theater because it evolved because of a trip that one of our staff groups, artistic staff groups, took in 2000 to Harriet Tubman's home site in upstate New York. They did the full Underground Railroad experience for the children who were in that camp. And then ultimately, in about 2009, I think, we decided to do a group which is called Connections, and it's a diverse group of young people that is built on the Underground Railroad model. So the group, the organization we have now, the nonprofit, is a legacy, therefore, of the Afro-American Children's Theater, and we are doing many exciting things based on that now. The Afro-American Children's Theater, as I mentioned, started in 1981, and with a $300 grant from Arts and Science Council's grassroots granting source, and then the next year we got $500 and continued it with Smith's tremendous support. And there has never been an Afro-American Children's Theater in Charlotte. And of course we started in 81, and the legacy continues, so 30 plus years. The Gantt Center, of course, evolved from the Afro-American culture. I was on the board of the Afro-American Cultural Center, and I don't want us to forget that started with a group of people who felt like we didn't have a source for sharing our history, and obviously it evolved into the Gantt Center, and the Gantt Center has just celebrated, I think, or is in the process of celebrating 40 years. But without those pioneers who felt like we needed to have an Afro-American Culture Center, it would not exist. It is a part of that legacy. And there are many, many other people who have experienced a lot of success, particularly in the arts community. And that is the community that I know the most about. There are many, many, many stories about young people who gain confidence in themselves. Well, I do believe that there's a possibility that other things happen in the community because of Afro-American Children's Theater, but I'm extremely aware of the fact that my daughter is a cultural educator, works through Arts and Science Council grants to go into the schools in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. And she's one of the performing artists who goes in, does stories. She has a degree in Spanish Ed. She does a bilingual presentation when she is working with children in schools all over, and she does programs with other organizations in the community. And one of the things people asked me years ago, if we had any children who were famous and making a lot of money, and that was never the goal. The goal was to provide experiences so that children in our community could celebrate themselves and their culture. And ultimately, of course, some of them have done some other things, but that was not the goal. That was not in the mission statement at the time. But it is a nice thing to have had that come to fruition because they had those experiences. There is a young man, Adrian Crutchfield, who was in Afro-American Children's Theater, and he plays with Prince. Interested, or if you're in Charlotte, I would recommend that you do take advantage of the festival like Juneteenth, which is obviously done sometime in June, about the middle of June. The Gantt Center is a very good resource. My family, about 10 years or so ago, bought the historic Excelsior Club. At the Excelsior Club we party, but it is also, and from the very beginning, it was a venue where African Americans could come and learn about the community. And we still have political events so that any politician who is interested in courting the African American vote can come here during the times when we have those special events. And of course, I do feel like it's kind of nice to at least ride down Baysford Road and kind of get a flavor of the culture that still exists, the Brooklyn-Biddleville community. One of the things that makes me happy about Charlotte is coming here 48 years ago, there was a strong sense of the African American culture, and it still exists, and that's because of people like Julius and Vivian Chambers, who are deceased, and people who are still here. It is extremely important. Even now, there isn't an opportunity for African American children to have the opportunity to participate in a program that's really about them and their culture. Some of the other arts organizations will do something in February, generally in February, and occasionally the children in our community get a chance to participate. But with the Afro-American Children's Theater and Tomorrow's Road, African American children get the opportunity to learn about their history and build on it in whatever way they would like to build on it.